Hello, everybody. My name is Gamaal Serugo-Lugo from the awards team here at Lions. Thank you very much for joining us today and welcome to the How to Win a Lynx live briefing. Today, we'll be going through the value of the awards, what you need for award-winning strategy, what's new in the awards this year, how to craft your entries, and finally a peek into the judging process. There will be a Q&A session at the end, so please hold your questions until then. So what is Dubai Lynx? Dubai Lynx is a festival, but also an award show which celebrates creativity for and from the MENA region. And Lynx is the most prestigious prize to be won in the region, and winners are celebrated not only locally, but also recognized globally, as the Lynx are part of the Cannes Lions stable of awards. We use the same strict judging process and criteria as Cannes Lions to ensure neutrality and fairness for all entries submitted. So the biggest questions we get asked is, what can winning a Lynx do for my business? And what is the value of these awards? Let's go back and ask the question, what is the value of creativity in the first place? As champions for creativity, we believe that it will bring us through the pandemic and the recession. Like Ari Weiss, CCO at DDB says, we're on the precipice of seeing some of the most creative solutions the world has ever seen. And we agree. At a point where the world is demanding change, we need to activate our right brains to generate new ideas and solutions. The world is demanding it, and that's precisely why creativity is a fundamental business growth driver. The sentiment does feel somewhat intuitive, but is there any evidence to back this up? Here's BBDO's CEO, Andrew Robertson, talking about research done by Peter Field.
Once and for all, do creative awards matter? Is there a correlation between winning creative awards and sales effect, business effect? And what he did was he took as his sample all of the IPA effectiveness case studies that had been submitted to that point. So the universe is just work that is very effective. And then he separated it out into those cases where, in addition to winning effectiveness awards, they'd won lots of creative awards, and those where they hadn't. And what he found is this chart, which is very, very important. The ones that had won lots of creative awards were 11 times more effective than the ones that had just won effectiveness awards.
Across a range of business metrics, creatively awarded work outperforms non-creatively awarded work. Consumers are less price sensitive, you grow your market share and gain both sales and loyalty. However, in 2016, there was a panic. The updated report revealed that for the first time in a 20-year run of data, creatively awarded campaigns had started to lose their effectiveness advantage. They are considerably more effective than non-awarded campaigns, but a destructive downward trend has developed. Why? Most of the deterioration can be put down to short-termism. A focus on short-term sales activation have taken precedence over long-term brand building efforts. The imbalance towards short-term gains and ROI is hurting the industry at large. So, how do you know if your work is high quality or not? Well, the short answer is you benchmark it against the best in the region by entering Dubai Lynx. Even if you don't win a Lynx, you get to gauge how your work fares against the best work out there. But if you do win, you might be saying these things that we consistently hear from our winners every year. Lynx awards help not only retain, but also attract new clients. Similarly, they do the same for talent. If you're doing exciting award-winning work, then the best in the business are going to want to work with you and flex their creative muscles. If you win a Dubai Lynx, the exposure extends across the MENA region and even globally, as it's associated with Lions family of festivals. The Lynxes are the most creative award around. Professionally, your career improves if you're able to win a Lynx from being headhunted for being able to charge higher fees if you're a freelancer. And most importantly, the overall level of creativity at your agency can improve if you're using Lynx as the benchmark and push your team to achieve ever more interesting and impressive pieces of work. It's worth noting that we don't want you to exclusively aim for a Lynx. It's much better that you aim for exceptionally creative work, and the trophies will follow as a result. Let's move on to how to create an award-winning culture. If we know that winning awards is a byproduct of really creative and effective work, then what does it take to win a Lynx, the pinnacle of achievement in the region? First off, you need a plan. Do what Roscoe did a few years ago and set an award strategy and process in place. It's highly unlikely you'll be able to achieve consistent success without this. A successful award strategy adopted by people who seem to know how to win regularly usually works like this. The process begins with entering your work, and then, win or lose, learning from the winners and benchmarking yourself against them. Use what you've learned and absorbed from winners and insights that come out of the festival to adjust your approach to your work and entries for the next year. All of these elements combined can inform what you create for your clients and push creative excellence. It is an investment, so even more reason to strategize. Let's break this down a little further. The two core elements to this strategy hinge on the people who's going to be involved and how, and the work. What are you going to enter, why, and also how? So let's start with the entry coordinator. This should be someone who will be around for a few months as the process can take that long. So don't leave it to an intern. They should have good relations with all departments in the company since they will be getting information from everybody. They usually work closely with us to learn more about our eligibility rules, judging process, and categories and changes. They learn what to pay attention to, what your company's blind spots may be, and feed this all back to the creative and executive teams. The Creative Council is a common name we've heard used for a group of senior creatives who regularly get together to go over the work that you've put out over the year. They establish goals and manage entry production budgets and consider relevant categories for the work. Ideally, one or more of the people on the council should have jury experience, especially at one of our shows. They can pass on advice of how the jury process works, how the jury assess each entry, what they look for, and what keeps their interest peaked after hours of watching entry film after entry film. And finally, winning awards should be shouted from the heavens if you want to get the full benefits from them. Involve your press team or person in amplifying the message of the win on behalf of your company and also your client. When it comes to the work, the key is to be strategic, but not in the way that some of you may think. Don't try to game the system and play the odds, i.e. asking me to tell you which categories are the least subscribed to, so you might enter into them for a better chance at winning. The jury are not forced to give out gold, silver, bronzes, or shortlists per category. Rather, they judge the work based on its own merits and only award metal where they truly feel it's deserved. What's more important is that you're targeting your entries to the most relevant categories. I've seen it happen time after time where a jury love a piece of work, but they're unable to upgrade it because it's not quite indicative of that category it's been entered into. It's crucial to find the right categories for your work, but with hundreds of categories across 20 links, we don't expect you to learn them all. We can help your entry coordinator select the best categories. Details will come at the end of the presentation. And finally, learn from the winning work. Pay attention to how they craft their case film because it is one of the key elements. And involve your clients in this process. Show them what is possible in their sector and what bold work looks like and can do for their brand. So let's dig a bit deeper into entry side of things. Let's look at the Lynx awards and their categories. And here is a family of Lynx awards. As you can see, we award creative marketing communications across 20 awards. This year, there's an addition to the Social Influencer Award, but before that, let me explain the Lynx structure in a little bit more depth. So at the top end here, we have the award that you're submitting into. And then below it, we have a section, which is a grouping of categories. At the bottom end there, you have the category, which is what you'll be submitting your work into. The Social Influencer Lynx Award celebrates creative social thinking and strategic influencer marketing solutions. Entries into this award should demonstrate how levels of engagement, social reach, and creative use of social media, brand ambassadors, and influencers led to commercial success. The criteria the jury will be looking for is 30% in the idea, 20% strategy, 20% execution, and 30% results, meaning a whopping 60% of your overall mark will be across the idea and results alone. Please visit our website for more information on this award. As you all know, the Creative Effectiveness Lynx Award celebrates the measurable impact of creative work. And for work to be eligible, it must have won or been shortlisted in either 2019, 2020, or 2021. What is new is that we've refreshed the award for this year by completely rethinking and regrouping the categories into 3 sections to more accurately reflect the current and future working practices. These sections are sectors, market, and brand challenges and opportunities. The entry paper has evolved into an online written submission with expanded questions and opportunities to provide different types of results. We substantially updated the PR links too. The PR links have been refreshed to ensure that the awards accurately represent the current PR industry and recognise the breadth of work that the PR and communication specialists now excel in, including driving earned media at scale. The new social engagement influencer marketing sections have been reimagined from the old digital and social sections. It now incorporates content creation, amplification, and production, plus social community engagement and influencer marketing. The section's excellent PR craft and PR techniques ensure that Lynx Awards celebrates PR as a craft. And then I want to touch upon some key rules for entering. These are not new, but good to know before you begin entering. It is important to know that after you've checked out and your entries on the system, even if you haven't paid for them, you cannot amend or replace any of your media in your entries afterwards. Your entry media must also have the applicable music licenses and any rights required for the media to be seen publicly. And lastly, you must have permission for the brand or client before entering. Moving on, let's have a look at the all-important dates. So we opened for entries on the 27th of October 2021, and then we had our first fee increase on the 15th of December 2021, and we have a second fee increase in around 2 days' time, I believe, the 19th of January, and the final deadline is on the 2nd of February this year. Now let's talk about the top tips for creating and submitting your entry. I personally have never won a Lynx, however, the team and I have talked to a lot of people who have, and they've been generous enough to share their insights and advice with us. The key tool to use before finalizing your entries are the entry kits. The entry kit is like the entries Bible, which explains the categories, their requirements, and the rules, and also sample questions for the online entry form. Do not neglect your written portion of your entry. It's not all about the case film. The details in your written submission and media placement can and often do make a difference in the jury room. Here are 2 jurors recorded at our sister festival, Cannes Lions, explaining what to think about when you're preparing the written submission.
I suggest everybody be very careful of what you write because we actually read it. Most people, I know it sounds really ridiculous, but some people think that they're useless, but we actually go through those pieces of information to judge the piece.
We saw the work that continued to advance up was work that had an equally strong, surgical with the language, written case study that started with an insight, was clear about the strategy, and really delivered on the results. So don't just let that be a once over. I think that precision needs to really take place in the written case study.
Let's go through the all-important case film. Now, it's not the only part of your entry that Drew will be looking at, but it is in many ways the face of your entry. Before we go into case film specifics, just know that they are not required or only supplementary in these highlighted links. It depends on the category whether or not you should provide some other sort of supported media, but in most cases it's fine to go ahead and enter with just the creative execution and the write-up. I must stress that it depends on the category within these links, but this cheat sheet can be used as a general guide. If you want to save on entry fees, enter your films, radio ads, print ads, etc. early before the fee increase deadline, and then spend the time thereafter working on the entries that require case films. So do those people who win links fairly regularly approach their case film? They stopped thinking of them as something to be made after their campaign and started calling them mini documentaries to be thought of and made alongside the production of their project. When done well, they have multiple purposes, like they could be using pictures on your websites or social to promote your agency, or your portfolio to promote yourself, as well as awards. It is an investment, so think beyond awards. But what about the jury? What did they recommend? First of all, keep it short. Just to provide a bit of context, our juries will watch up to 250 case films a day before they reach their final shortlist. Treat it like a piece of editorial. Front load it with all the important points, then flesh them out thereafter. There is a 2-minute limit, and this is by no means a goal. Here's an example from a winner from 2019.
दवाई लेने के लिए कोई मुश्किल नहीं होएगा, ये तरीका आसान लगता है।
That was RX prescription stickers for Dubai Health Authority by the Classic Partnership. It won a Grand Prix in healthcare amongst other awards and took just 77 seconds to explain everything. Time and time again, our juries have fed back to us that category selection and relevance to the category selected is absolutely crucial. There are hundreds of categories across 20 lynxes, and we don't expect you to know them all, so we are here to help. We have a great team of experienced award experts that can help you select the right categories for your work. You just need to send them a summary, a link or a rough cut of your case film if you have it, and our team will be able to get back to you within 48 hours with some eligible categories for you to submit your work into. Contact details again will be at the end of this presentation. Don't leave it to last minute, ask our help early on. We know all the categories better than anyone, and we are a free service. Here's two different juries. One's a film craft, the other's a PR post-judging account, reflecting on the importance of making sure you choose the right category.
We actually saw things that were not necessarily, that were inserted in the right categories. And I think one thing that we learn is that if you insert your exceptional work in the right category, which is something that not always happens, if it's exceptional, it will kind of rise to the top.
There is a strategy in entering, not only in crafting it, but as well as choosing. There is one thing that we have been debating on a lot of campaigns, that we thought that this is a brilliant piece of work, but in another category. And we are not allowed to choose or to move anything to a different category. There were campaigns, if it was entered in a different category, that would have won. It's just that they were just randomly entered in a particular category where there are other powerful work, or it's not as relevant. The real beauty of that idea was maybe in public affairs or issues or reputation, and it was entered into maybe CSR or something. And that is where we need to be more strategic about really looking at the categories, what it means, understanding, because there are descriptions on it, and having a strategy of entering in the right category.
Next tip, keep it simple. This is your baby, and there is a tendency to want to include every scrap of detail, especially if it's a long-running campaign across multiple media platforms. But stop, take a fresh perspective, take a step back and reimagine a work for a new audience and distill it down to its core elements. And be clear about what you've done. Assume no prior knowledge of anything to do with your entry. If possible, get other people to look at it, especially people who don't work in advertising. Can you play it back with the sound off and it's still comprehensible? That's a great way to gauge how clear your case film is. Think about cultural context. Explain how you arrived at your insights and why the execution was so relevant. Don't produce a case film aimed at someone from your country. Try to explain it from someone from Japan, Iceland, or even Russia. Make use of subtitles, introductory slides, and supporting physical materials are also welcomed. Here are the PR jury again echoing this point.
the whole jury process means that your work is going to be judged by people from all corners of the world. So understand that cultural context is extraordinarily important. You know, we had a lot of discussion in the room when cases were presented, and there were often, it was often the case that some of the jurors literally didn't really understand the power of the idea. So we had to sometimes stop and explain. So think very carefully about how you present your work. Make it really simple to understand. If there is a really important local market nuance that's critical, make it clear and easy to understand.
And here's a 2019 winner that really explains the point about cultural context.
FGM is the forcible removal of a girl's external genitals.
A violation of the human rights of girls.
Globally, 200 million women have been affected. In Egypt alone, over 87% of women are victims. FGM is a harmful tradition passed on from generation to generation.
طفلة كانت جاية معمولها ختان، كان عندها 7 سنين وكانت جاية بنزيف حاد شديد جدا ودخلت في شك وطبعا توفت.
How do we break the cycle and get the next generation to say no? Introducing the Zero Tolerance Ribbon, a statement of defiance against FGM. By taking the Universal Awareness Ribbon and turning it upside down, we created a symbol that is the Arabic word for no. Launched across hospitals in Egypt, we are educating new parents about the damaging effects of this practice and encouraging them to protect their daughters' rights by signing a pledge saying no to FGM. Our message spread as the community came together to take a stand.
وبناشد كل الآباء والأمهات إنهم يفكروا مليون مرة قبل ما يعملوا الموضوع ده لبناتهم.
The strongest advocates are the families themselves.
أنا اتختنت عشان كده برفض أي حاجة اسمها ختان.
دار الإفتاء المصرية أعادت نشر فتواها وتحريم الجريمة دي.
The European Union will continue.
Even the Egyptian government got involved.
Egypt announced this weekend it intends to tighten legislation against female genital mutilation. And
on the International Awareness Day of FGM, the global community adopted the symbol. The initiative will be presented at the UN Commission of the Status of Women in March this year. Let's stand together to end female genital mutilation.
That was Zero Tolerance Ribbon for 28 Too Many by Impact BBDO Dubai. It won a Grand Prix for Good, a design gold, integrated silver, and a brand experience bronze, to name but a few. It does feel free to tell a room full of storytellers to tell their story, but we do sometimes lose sight of this. So many case films are falling for the trap of becoming more sort of over-formulaic. The jury are people, and people remember stories and characters. Structure your story around a compelling narrative and you'll be sure to entertain the jury and make your work more memorable. Be aware that the results count slightly differently for each line, and in some cases they aren't required at all. So when you do provide them, make sure they are robust, clear, and relate back to original goals, strategies, and objectives to illustrate effectiveness. Be honest, provide quantitative figures and stats that the jury can refer to if needed, and allow our 2019 direct jury to explain the importance.
And results was really surprising because it was worth 30% of the mark. So that's huge. So I'm guilty of entering direct and just being like, oh, and there was this many impressions and somebody did this. But you really have to get really specific about it, especially with, you could say you had 1 billion impressions, and that doesn't really mean a lot. Like, it means more if 100 people downloaded your app and, interacted with what you did and bought something. That means way more.
And here's a bronze winner from 2019 as an example.
Kuwait sees potentially record-setting heat.
Even the weather forecasts say this year's temperatures are much above average.
Kuwait, the hottest place on Earth, 149.6 million kilometers from the sun, but it feels like this. So hot, you can literally flame grill a burger. Burger King Kuwait presents the Sun Flame Grilled Whopper. We built a solar machine that harnesses the power of the sun's rays to create the ultimate flame grill experience. When the temperature reaches a staggering 50 degrees in Kuwait, it is time to cook our Sun Flame Grilled burgers. The Sun Flame Grilled Whopper, available for a limited time in Kuwait every time the temperature reaches 50 degrees. The Sun Flame Grilled Whopper. We don't just flame grill, we sun flame grill. And things off the sun grill got hotter than the grill itself. We shared our Sun Flame Grilled Whoppers with the world, and they caught fire fast. And that is how two kings came together and ruled the summer.
Showing those all-important results here there. That was a Sun Flame Grilled Whopper for Burger King by Mamak Ogilvy Kuwait, which won a PR bronze and a media shortlist. So those are our top tips for crafting your entry. Don't forget that you can view past winners on the Dubai Lynx website to see how the competition and the winners are crafting their entries. Now, let's look at the judging process and criteria. This might help demystify the process for you once you see how it's done and understand what the jury go through, which can in turn be useful in crafting your entry. Within the entry kit, you want to pay particular attention to the materials required for the category you're submitting your work into, but also the judging criteria. The example on the screen shows you the design jury, which are casting marks on the idea, execution, and results, and they're all weighted slightly differently, which reveals a sense of priority for that jury. Are you addressing them in your entry, media, or write-up? You need to make sure that you are. The judging criteria relate to the type of work that Lynx receives and what each jury finds important. Some juries cast 1 mark per entry based on the creativity, for example, whereas other juries cast multiple marks per entry based on the criteria, which are all weighted differently. For example, the jury could be casting a mark worth 30% for the overall vote based on your results alone. Here I've circled the awards where the jury casts multiple votes per entry across like the idea, strategy, execution, and results, as you can see. These links correlate with the entries where we highly recommend you create a case form for, but ensure your case form addresses each of the judging criteria for the links that you're submitting into. Finally, let's discuss the judging to demystify the process and help you better understand the importance of our requirements. In the first round, the jury are usually judging solo, and they have to consider every piece of media you've uploaded and your write-up before they can cast their marks on the judging criteria. Voting changes to a 2/3 majority, i.e. 2/3 of the jury have to agree on the decision. From shortlist review stage onwards, where the jury decided if they're happy with the top ranked entries in the links. From here on, the write-ups are scrutinized closer. Guided by the jury president, judges review and debate each entry in the shortlist before voting on whether they consider each to be either gold, silver, bronze winner, or shortlist. The jury sometimes have further questions for the entry at this stage, so we may be in touch on their behalf. Please provide reliable contact details in the jury contact section in the entry form. Candidates for Grand Prix are selected from the gold winners. Further discussions of these lead to a last vote to determine a Grand Prix winner. Please note that the jury cannot move entries in different categories at any stage, so another reason, get this right early on. So here's a reminder of some key dates when it comes to booking your tables. Table passes go on sale on the 26th of January, so not long now. The table super early bird prices deadline is on the 9th of February. And finally, the final early bird prices deadline is on the 21st of February. The award ceremony is taking place on the 16th of March at the Dubai Opera House. You can buy tickets on the 26th by visiting the website www.dubailynx.com. And that brings us to a close. I hope this has been useful for you. With a combined 30 years of experience, our awards department are available to help you with your entries. We can offer one-on-one workshops based on your potential entry, so please get in touch. It's free and expert advice.